Joel couldn't even look me in the eye when he said it. Just sat there behind his stupid, cluttered desk, twisting that broken pen in his fingers like it had answers he didn't. We're making some budget cuts, he mumbled, barely above a whisper. That was it. No warning, no performance review, no heads up. Just 3 sentences and a pitiful shrug. I just won a regional award 2 weeks ago for that piece on the Housing Authority scam. They even posted it on the company's website, like they were proud. Now, apparently, my stories were too expensive to keep around. My name is Lauren Mitchell. I'm 32. I live in Gainesville, Texas. And until about 10 minutes ago, I was the lead investigative reporter at the North County Record. I sat there frozen, staring at Joel like maybe I'd misheard. Budget cuts, I said. After I just brought in the biggest traffic spike this place has seen in 5 years. Joel shifted in his chair. It's not personal. That line lit me up. That line. I stood up slow, grabbed my press badge from the table, and clipped it onto my bag like I wasn't just kicked out of the place I'd given 10 years to. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't give him the satisfaction. Quick note, before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. The HR assistant, Haley, was waiting by the door with a padded envelope and a grimace. She kept her voice soft, like she was helping me plan a funeral. They'll ship your reporting equipment and personal items, she said. Should arrive by Friday. She glanced down at the floor. Your articles, too, the ones you were working on, they'll, be packed up. Right, packed up like trash. I signed the NDA they slid across the table. Standard language, threatening to sue me into oblivion if I talked. I signed it anyway. I could fight later if I needed to. As I walked out of the building, sunlight smacked me in the face. My phone buzzed before I even reached the sidewalk. Joel, return all confidential files ASAP. Non-compliance will trigger legal review. No, thanks for your service. No call. Just that text. I didn't answer. What he didn't know, what he'd never bothered to ask, was that I'd backed up every story I'd ever touched. Notes, interviews, documents. All mine. Locked down and offline. I slid into my car, slammed the door, and sat there gripping the steering wheel, numb but alert. My face didn't move. Not until I was halfway home and the silence broke. And that's when the anger hit. I didn't even take my shoes off when I got home. Walked straight to my desk, flipped open my laptop, and unlocked the private folder I'd buried 3 levels deep. Password protected, offline, completely mine. 3 stories sat there, all half-built, all ready to explode if they ever saw daylight. One was the school board misuse of grant money. Another was that trash-hauling contract kickback I'd been chasing for 6 months. But the third, my biggest one, was the real estate scam that Joel refused to run. I was scrolling through interview notes when my phone lit up with an incoming call. Daniela? I hadn't heard from her since I wrapped the final round of interviews. She was nervous back then, kept asking if her job would be safe once the story came out. Lauren? Her voice cracked like she'd been holding it in all day. Are they still running it? The piece on the after-school funding and the contracts? I walked into the kitchen and leaned against the counter. No, I said. I'm not with the paper anymore. A pause. What do you mean? I mean they let me go, yesterday, out of nowhere. They said budget cuts, but I exhaled hard. Let's just say it wasn't about money. Her silence stretched long enough that I thought she hung up. Then, so, what happens to the story? I still have it. You do? I don't throw away months of work because someone in a suit gets scared. That changed her tone completely. The fear in her voice dropped off. What came next was sharper, almost excited. Then why don't you publish it somewhere else? I had no answer. Not yet. But her question lit something in my chest I hadn't felt since before Joel started gutting our team. Before we go further, how's your day going and where are you joining from? A few hours later, I was back at my desk when I got a text from Jake, my old buddy in accounting. Jake, they're saying you falsified sources. Not cool. You good? My stomach dropped. He sent a screenshot, an internal Slack message from one of the editors, casually repeating the lie like it was a proven fact. Like I'd made up names, made up quotes. That's when it all clicked. Joel wasn't just trying to cover the paper's ass. He was nuking my name to make sure I couldn't take my work anywhere else. And if I couldn't publish, I couldn't prove he was the one bearing stories to protect certain donors. I stared at the text. My hand was shaking, but not from fear. I felt my pulse in my neck, in my jaw, all the way down my spine. He was going to smear me out of the industry. Fine. He wanted to fight dirty? I went to my email and pulled up Lena's contact. She'd left the paper a year ago after clashing with Joel over political coverage. She ran a lean but sharp blog now, focused on city politics. No fluff, just truth. Me. Coffee tomorrow? You still hate Joel? I've got a story for you. She replied in less than 5 minutes. Lena. What time? I smirked and cracked my knuckles. Tomorrow, I'd give her everything Joel was afraid of. I wasn't going to beg for my job back or sit quiet while he rewrote the story of who I was. I was going to burn his lies down with the truth, and then build something better out of the ashes. Lena was already at the corner booth when I walked into Clover and Bean, her go-to cafe downtown. She had a black coffee, no cream, no sugar, and her face was tight with something between rage and curiosity. I slid into the seat across from her. Before I even opened my mouth, she snapped, "Joel fired you?" "What the hell for?" "Budget cuts," I said. "But now they're telling people I faked sources." Her eyes narrowed. "You?" "Yeah, me." She slammed her cup down hard enough the barista glanced over. "That slimy bastard," she hissed. God, I should have burned his reputation when I left. I knew he'd pull this kind of crap. I took out my laptop and turned it toward her. He's not just covering his ass. He's trying to kill the stories I've been building. She leaned forward. "You brought something." I clicked open the folder. 3 major stories, all untouched. One's the real estate scam he refused to print. It's got everything. Permits, interview logs, a city council conflict of interest. You want a headline that turns heads? This is it. She stared at the screen without blinking. "You still want to publish?" "I want to go bigger. You've got a platform. I've got content. What if we started something together? Fast, focused, investigative only." She sat back. "An outlet?" "Local stories, real reporting. No fluff. Pull in laid-off reporters, underpaid freelancers. We run tight, digital first, and we punch hard. Before we go further, while you're listening, tell us which country you're watching from." Lena looked like she wanted to say yes immediately, but didn't. Instead, she went quiet, chewing the inside of her cheek. I knew that look. It meant she was 2 steps ahead, already thinking about blowback. "What if they come after you for stealing material?" she said finally. "If those notes were done on company time or logged into their systems, they could sue." "They weren't," I said. "Everything's from my own interviews, my own recorder, off the clock, off the grid. I didn't use a second of company hardware. These stories are mine." She tapped her fingers on the table. "We'd need a name, something strong." "Let's not overthink it. What about the Ledger Project?" She raised an eyebrow. "That's not bad." "It says what it is, a record, an account." The receipts. Lena nodded slowly, still cautious, but I could see it clicking in her head. "Okay," she said. "We start small. Beta issue only. 1 story. That real estate piece. You write it clean, fact-heavy, bulletproof. I'll bring in one of my editors to polish it and make it airtight." "And if it catches?" I asked. "Then we double down." She held out her hand. I shook it. Just like that, it was real. No staff, no funding, no office. But we had a story that deserved to be read and 2 women ready to fight for it. When I got up to leave, I didn't feel like someone who'd just been fired. I felt like someone about to start a war and win. The next morning, my phone rang before I even finished my first cup of coffee. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. 10 seconds later, it rang again. Same number. I answered with a flat, "Yeah? This is Darren." From City Hall, I straightened up. Darren worked in admin, but he heard everything. "Someone from the record called our office," he said, "asking questions about you. Real subtle stuff. Trying to feel out who you've talked to, if you're reliable." "Unreliable?" I said. He sighed. "That was the word. Like you fabricate stories or leave things out." My jaw tightened. "Joel's still playing dirty." "Figured you should know," Darren said. "For what it's worth, I told him I trusted you more than any reporter that's come through here in 10 years. I thanked him and hung up, heart pounding. Joel wasn't just trying to kill my work. He was planting seeds to destroy any trust I'd built. But it was too late. The wheels were already turning. Lena had moved fast. In 2 days, she pulled in a freelance editor named Marcy, who used to work at a local weekly, plus a graphic designer and a college kid named Seth, who'd been running some impressive social accounts on the side. We weren't exactly a newsroom, but we had muscle. That's when the email hit. Subject: cease and desist. Unauthorized use of proprietary materials. I read it 3 times, then called Mallory. She was a lawyer I went to college with. Brilliant, bored, and always down for a legal fistfight. I forwarded her the email and called her phone. "Give me a sec," she said, clicking through the document while I waited in silence. Then she actually laughed. "Oh my God, Lauren, this is garbage. Are you sure? They didn't list any file names, no dates, no proof you used work property. They're bluffing. This is just a scare tactic." I let out a slow breath. So, I'm not crazy. Nope. You're being targeted by insecure morons. Keep everything backed up and keep moving forward. Quick note: before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. That night, Lena texted me a screenshot of the domain registration confirmation. TheLedgerProject.com was officially ours. I fired off emails to every source, contact, and former colleague I trusted. Told them to keep their eyes open. Something new was coming. Something real. Within an hour, my inbox lit up. Teachers, city staff, a few reporters I hadn't talked to in months. One email after another. "About time. Can I help? Let me know when it goes live." It felt like waking up. Like every part of me that had been frozen under Joel's thumb finally cracked loose and started breathing again. Then, at 11:47 p.m., one more message popped up. "Joel Ryan. Stop what you're doing. You're not ready for what comes next." No greeting, no signature, just that. I stared at the screen, pulse loud in my ears. My hand hovered over the keyboard, tempted to fire back something ugly. But I didn't. I deleted the message. I didn't need to trade punches with him. I had something stronger: facts. And in a few days, the whole city was going to see them. By noon the next day, the Ledger Project was officially alive. Barely, but alive. Lena dropped the teaser post on our brand new Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram accounts. A simple black and white graphic with bold text that read, "Something buried is coming to light. The Ledger Project." Within 2 hours, my phone wouldn't stop vibrating. Old sources, city employees, local watchdog groups, even a couple minor politicians who'd ignored my emails for years were suddenly very interested. "Is this about the zoning board? Tell me it's about that fake traffic study. Whatever you're doing, I want in." The buzz didn't feel casual. It felt ready. People were waiting for someone to pull the pin. We kept things vague, but Lena followed up with a short post promising the kind of local reporting that stops being polite when things stop being legal. Then Joel came back swinging. That afternoon, Mallory called me with a voice like static. "Check your inbox," she said. "They're trying it again." The new letter from the paper's legal team was twice as long, twice as dramatic. They claimed I'd committed data theft, violated non-disclosure, and posed a reputational threat to the integrity of the newsroom. Mallory let out a low whistle as she read. "This is garbage," she said. "You backed up your own notes on your own devices. None of this holds." "They sound nervous," I muttered. "They are. That NDA was vague on purpose. Now they're trying to scare you with a threat they can't afford to follow through on." Then she cracked her knuckles. "You want to hit back?" "Hard. Before we go further, tell us in the comments, what would you do in my place?" Mallory wrote up a clean response and had it sent the next morning. "Your claims are baseless, defamatory, and retaliatory. Any further attempts to intimidate my client will result in a counterclaim. Govern yourselves accordingly." It was the legal version of flipping the bird. Behind the scenes, we kept working. Marcy polished the real estate exposé down to the sentence. The story was bulletproof. Contracts, emails, meeting notes, permit histories, all pulled from public records and interviews I'd done long before my firing. Lena got in touch with 2 independent print shops in Dallas. We weren't going wide yet, but we wanted options. Seth set up a secure newsletter sign-up list. No trackers, no hidden ads. Just a clean opt-in form linked to the site. Within a day, we had over 400 names. Support came in fast. So did warnings. One night, I got a text from Katie, a copy editor still stuck at the record. "Katie, Joel's unraveling. People are asking questions. HR is getting spooked. He's telling everyone you stole internal drafts, but no one's seen any proof." I stared at her message for a long time before typing back, "Me. Thanks. Keep your head down. It's almost done." We weren't bluffing, and Joel knew it. The story was ready. The people were watching, and if he thought another letter was going to stop me now, he'd miscalculated the hell out of me. We hit publish at 7:02 a.m. sharp. The headline was simple, direct, and brutal. Conflict, corruption, and permits. How a local developer got a free pass from City Hall. By 7:15, the Ledger Project's servers started crawling. Traffic hit harder than we expected. Dozens of shares, reposts, quote tweets. Lena called me 5 minutes later, breathless. "We're trending in North Texas," she said. "North Texas, Lauren?" I was sitting on my living room floor, phone in one hand, coffee in the other, heart pounding like I'd just run a sprint. The expose was long, 6,000 words, not counting the footnotes. Every paragraph had receipts, permit approval dates that didn't line up, emails between city planners and the developer's rep. Property photos showing construction had started before any official clearance, and right in the middle of it all was Councilman Reeves, whose brother-in-law happened to own the development firm. By 9:30, City Hall couldn't ignore it. They issued a statement saying the council would meet urgently to review the permit approvals. That meant two things: damage control and fear. By noon, the mayor's office released a press release calling the allegations deeply concerning. Joel couldn't sit on the sidelines anymore. He went on a local morning show, North County Now, and tried to downplay it, called the piece an emotional opinion blog masquerading as journalism. But he looked tired, sweaty. His answers were scattered. The host grilled him. "Did the Record review this story before she left?" "We chose not to publish it." "Why?" "It lacked verified context." "You mean the public records?" Joel froze. You could see it, his brain locking up while he searched for a way out that didn't make him look like a coward or a liar. Clip went viral. People started stitching it with headlines from the Ledger Project. His face, mid-fumble, became a meme. At 3:12 p.m., local news picked up the story. The reporter said the words I'd been waiting for. "This investigation comes courtesy of the Ledger Project, a new independent outlet launched by former Record journalist Lauren Mitchell." I dropped my phone in my lap and just stared at the wall. Not because I was shocked, but because it finally felt real. All those months of digging, getting shut down, getting fired, getting smeared, it wasn't wasted. It built this. Quick note, while you're listening, let us know where in the world you're tuning in from. That night, I got an email from the Texas Center for Independent Journalism. Subject, speaking opportunity. We'd love to feature you. They wanted me on a panel next month. Topic: Truth without permission, independent journalism in small towns. I barely made it through the whole message before my phone buzzed again. "Mallory, they dropped the lawsuit threat. Quietly, no press release, just vanished." I smiled and typed back. "Me. Cowards." She sent a thumbs-up gif. I laughed, then closed my laptop and sat back. No press badge, no newsroom. But I just pulled off the biggest story of my career, and nobody could take it away this time. 3 days after the story hit, I got an email from a record address I didn't recognize. Subject, off the record, request to meet. The message was short, said they wanted a private conversation. "Not Joel," it read. "Please consider." I wasn't sure if it was bait, but I replied. Gave them one option. Noon, Friday, at Billy's Diner. Public, loud, neutral ground. When I walked in, I spotted her right away. Leanne Harper. She was on the board, one of the old guard types who never said much publicly but pulled strings behind the scenes, always in a blazer, always polished. I slid into the booth across from her. "No Joel?" I asked. She gave a quick shake of her head. "He's not part of this conversation." Smart choice. She didn't flinch, just took a sip of her tea, then reached into her bag and laid a folder on the table between us. "We'd like you to consult," she said. "Not full-time, independent. We're rebuilding our investigative desk. You'd help set standards, train new staff, possibly lead special projects." I raised an eyebrow. "You want me to fix the thing your editor destroyed?" "We want to move forward." I opened the folder. The offer was real. High five-figure contract, 6-month term, no NDA, no non-compete. My byline stays mine. I closed it. "You know how insane this looks, right?" I said. "You fire me, trash my name, try to bury my work, then come crawling the second I prove you were wrong?" She didn't blink. "The board didn't approve how things were handled. That's why I'm here. We're not asking you to come back. We're asking to collaborate, cleanly." I leaned back in the booth, arms crossed. "And Joel?" She hesitated. "His status is under review." I laughed. Translation: You're not ready to fire him, but you're testing the water. Leanne set her cup down, her tone softer but still clipped. Lauren, the paper's in trouble. Community trust is shot. We need to show people we still care about truth. You're the only one who walked out of this with credibility intact. Before we continue, what would you do if the people who wronged you came asking for help? I didn't give her an answer right then, just said I'd think about it. Truth was, I already knew. If I didn't get full transparency, full editorial freedom, and public acknowledgement of what really happened, I wasn't touching it. Not for that rate. Not for double. She slid out of the booth and paused before walking off. For what it's worth, she said, I never supported the decision to let you go. I didn't smile, just watched her walk out like she hadn't just offered me a bribe to clean up their mess. The second I left that diner, I called Lena. She didn't even say hello, just jumped right in. Tell me they didn't offer you a job. Not a job, a contract, I said. They want a partner, consulting, investigations, rebuilding trust. She let out a sharp laugh. After all the crap they pulled. Yep, and it's not just Joel. Leanne showed me the terms. Big money, no gag clauses. That shut her up for a second. Then, you thinking about it? I am thinking we set our own terms. We met that night and laid it all out. If we were going to work with the Record, even in small doses, we weren't giving up an inch. Full editorial control, no rewrites, no delays. We kept our platform, our branding, and our voice. They could reprint stories, sure, but only under our bylines, with our sign-off. By the end of the week, we had a formal partnership contract, tightly worded, lawyer-reviewed, no loopholes. And we didn't waste time. Our second issue went live a few days later. This one hit harder than the first. The headline read, Board of Deceit, How School Budget Cuts Funded Private Pockets. The story was mine, one Joel had buried months ago after calling it too inflammatory. It wasn't. It was facts, financial reports, whistleblower emails, and a paper trail straight to a board member's family-run consulting firm. People were furious. Parents showed up to the next school board meeting with printed copies in their hands. One woman stood up and read a paragraph aloud before the chair tried to cut her mic. That same week, I got a letter, hand-signed, from the publisher himself. On behalf of the North County Record, I want to formally apologize for how your departure was handled. Joel Ryan has been asked to resign for mismanagement. I read it twice before setting it down. Didn't smile, didn't gloat. Just took a picture of it and texted it to Mallory with one word. Finally. Before we wrap up, would you have agreed to work with the same people who threw you out? To mark the official launch of the partnership, we hosted a public event at the city library. Nothing fancy, folding chairs, free cookies, a week live stream, but the room was packed. Reporters, readers. A few city council members lurking in the back. Lena and I took the mic together. We talked about truth, local accountability, and not needing permission to do your damn job. We got a standing ovation. That night, back at her apartment, we split a $10 bottle of champagne in chipped mugs. We didn't feel like underdogs anymore. We felt like the bar everyone else had to meet. 1 month later, I stood under the bright lights of a rented high school auditorium, gripping a plaque that said Excellence in Local Journalism. The presenter had just finished reading a paragraph about the importance of independent reporting in protecting democratic accountability. His voice was calm, steady, a little rehearsed, but it landed. He looked right at me. This year's recognition goes to the Ledger Project, co-founded by Lauren Mitchell, for work that demanded answers and delivered them. I walked up to the podium, not smiling, just breathing slow and steady. The room was packed, folded programs in every lap, cameras flashing, and there they were, 2 rows from the front, 3 former Record staffers who'd once whispered that I was difficult, unstable, too intense to work with. Now they were clapping. I didn't make a speech, just nodded, took the plaque, and stepped back down. That was enough. As I made my way to the lobby, I spotted Daniela near the back doors. She looked different, less nervous, more sure of herself. She walked straight up to me. "I'm so glad I came," she said. "You changed things. People notice now." "Thank you for trusting me," I said. "None of it would have happened without you." She smiled, then hugged me. It wasn't polite or performative. It was solid, real. That hug hit harder than the award. Before we close, have you ever had to earn back your reputation after someone tried to ruin it? I stepped outside into the warm night air, letting the door close behind me. The parking lot was mostly empty. Crickets chirped from the grass near the sidewalk. I didn't feel triumphant, not exactly. I felt grounded, whole, like someone who had fought to take her own story back, and won. This wasn't about revenge. Joel could rot wherever he'd landed. This was something else. This was reclamation.